prohibits and includes things like the radioactive waste, so that it was noted that the Basel Convention was actually exposing Africa and other countries to hazardous waste. If you look at countries without regulation, if you look at countries where there's corruption, it's not inconceivable that people will actually accept that hazardous waste are imported or moved across countries at a cost. And there were cases, like I think in Nigeria, in Ivory Coast, where actually these wastes were found. So I support this. You are saying, when did it come into force internationally? That was sometime, I think, in 1998. A number of African countries have signed. And this Bamako one is basically an African agreement between African countries, which I think is desirable, because we are actually the most vulnerable. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at the waste that we were talking about, if you talk of e-waste, look at all these computers we use, the laptops we use, the handsets we use. Where do they go? They have to be taken somewhere. And Mr. Speaker, if you look at the plastic waste or any other non-biodegradable material, where do they go? So they are actually exporting them to Africa. So Speaker, if you look at things like batteries, whether they're the ordinary batteries that we use that are actually based on acid, that when they're no longer useful, you throw them, but they still contaminate the ground with the acidic material in the batteries, this carbon-based. If you look at things like lithium batteries, those ones actually are radioactive. So these are things we use virtually every day. If you look at medical waste, there are some medical waste that are very hazardous and not easily removed. Where do they go? And some medical waste are actually radioactive. Old X-ray machines, old scanning machines, where do these things go? And these are what we are actually being protected about. Some things we use actually contain mercury. And mercury is long-lasting. It goes in the environment. It contaminates the environment. And it is transmitted to unborn children. So, Mr. Speaker, this is actually a useful convention that we should sign and go with the other African countries that have signed it. I know what we need to do is to actually review it and look at advancements that come, and we amend what we need to amend. I agree with the Honorable Undo that it has come late, but it is something I support we should sign. Mr. Speaker, people put this.
You can have 1 more minute. Yes, proceed.
So, Speaker, these developed countries actually put these materials, then they concrete them, they put them in concrete, they put them in ships. They come and actually load them in our countries, either dig ground and put them, or actually put them in the sea. People are worried. They are all using nuclear energy. Where are they putting their nuclear waste? They don't know where to put them. So they are targeting us. Therefore, a convention like this, in my view, is the only protective mechanism that is in place now, and we should support it and upgrade our activities into it. With that, Mr. Speaker, I support signing this.
The Honorable Alice Nganga, followed by the Honorable Memusi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I also stand to support the ratification of the Bamako Convention. Honorable Speaker, I don't know what the West country they think of us. You know, they like selling waste material in form of second-hand things. They let it come to the country. They call it that we are selling second-hand phones, second-hand computers, second-hand scanners, second-hand whatever this and that. And they know very well, by the time they were leaving the country, their country, they knew it was a waste. They did not know where to dispose this waste to. So they knew the best way, they knew how, is to dump it here in Africa. And especially in my constituency. I have a dumping site called Kangoki. And Honorable Speaker, They don't do it during daytime. They wait night. By the time you come in the morning, you find so many waste material. You don't know who brought it, where it came from, what is it for. And then you start realizing people start getting sick, diseases you cannot even explain. Because it has become a dumping site. They ask, I know they have also their cartels here in the country that guides them on where to dump and when to dump it. This ratification is timely. It is on point. We need to pass it immediately to protect our own country. Honorable Speaker, these gadgets are very acidic, very poisonous, both to the soil and to the human beings. And once they dust them, not only those places are used for even for other bad purposes. You find when somebody is killed somewhere, they are dumped at the site over there because they know before these people come, because they come to those places, they stay even longer because it smells very badly. You cannot go there. You cannot touch some liquids that are flowing if you don't know what kind of liquids are those ones. And it's only this Western country who knows what those liquids are all about. So this convention, we need to pass it like yesterday, Honorable Chair, and we thank you with your committee for finding it right and timely to bring it at this particular time to protect our country, our people, and even our farmers. Because once that soil, once you plant, you are wondering why crops are not doing very well. But the soils have already been damaged, poisoned. Nothing can grow out of that soil. And you know, you can think it's only that dumping area that affects that only dumping area. No, because of the climate change and because of the weather, the people from this region, they can smell that waste from another region. And you find they are becoming flu that does not end. You are wondering, where does this flu come from? It doesn't end. Our children are suffering. Even there is one honorable here who is sneezing. It is not here. It is not here, honorable member. It is not here. But it is outside there. So I stand to support the ratification, Honorable Speaker, and also to put as a warning to the Western nation. A time has come for Africa to rise, and to rise in a biggest way, in whatever way. Both financially, we are equal to this task. We can have our own dollars, our own climate change ratifications, and also our own laws to guide us. We don't need to be running everything or getting everything from Western world. We have come of age. We can do things our own way, in our own method. We don't need them to come and teach us on how to do our own things. We know when they don't like us, Honorable Speaker, they only think of Africa when it becomes a dumping site like now. When they want to dump their things, Africa is very important. Oh, let us take this thing. We are helping the needy. We are helping them to have gadgets. We are helping them to have laptops. We are getting them to have phones, schools. And in their hearts, they know that these materials are coming to harm us. They are looking for us for a place to dump their things and to dump their waste. But we have said no. Thank you, Honorable Chair of this committee, for bringing this ratification timely. Asante sana.
The Honorable Memusi of Kajiado.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. And Honorable Speaker, let me start by thanking the Chair together with his committee for bringing this convention to the House for ratification. And let me say from the onset, Honorable Speaker, that I support. Honorable Speaker, now more than ever, we need to be very careful on how we deal with our environment. We have seen, Honorable Speaker, that if we don't take care of our environment, the devastating effects that causes to us is unbearable. Just the other day, Honorable Speaker, we went through a ravaging period of drought where communities, especially the pastoralist community, lost a lot of their livelihoods. This, Honorable Speaker, will take us a very long time to spring back. Right now, that community is unable to take their children to school. And this is all because of not caring about our environment. We have also seen, as members have talked about here, the rise of diseases, for example, cancer. And this is straining families. Families are having to sell their land. Families are having to dispose of their property to be able to treat their loved ones. All this is as a result of a degradation of our environment. Honorable Speaker, this convention is important as the chair of the committee has moved. And I also challenge the chair of this committee, together with his committee members, to look at local legislation, because just as members have been contributing, it came to my mind that we've not been conscious of where our e-waste is going to. In the last Jubilee regime, the government talked about bringing computers to class 1 students. And scrupulous business people took advantage to bring in substandard computers, and private schools bought these computers, which were conking off after 6 months of use. Where did all these computers go to? Where were they? How were they disposed? All the gadgets that we use, phones that we all use, we might all be on our 10th or 15th phone. Where have all these phones been going to? So I would want to challenge the chair of the Environmental Committee, together with his team, to look at local legislation on how we dispose our e-waste. It is time we start taking care of our environment, because without taking care of our environment, Honorable Speaker, even in terms of food security, we are not secure. We are polluting our soils, and in turn, the same acreage that you used to get 20 bags of maize, for example, you are now getting 5. Land is now producing less. Land is being subdivided. Honorable Speaker, all these things will come to bite us. We will continue becoming poor. So it is time we become very conscious of our environment. With those few words, Honorable Speaker, I support. Thank you.
Honorable members, I wish to recognize the presence in our speakers gallery of Kenyans who live in the States and who have come on a visit to their own motherland and want to see how this august institution is working. And they are Frazia Kirwa. Could you just rise up and so that Kenyans can see, members can see you? Alex Kirwa, William Kungu, John Koros, and finally Jennifer Kogo. They are also largely relatives of our own Member of Parliament for Mosop, Abraham Kirwa. You probably would want to say 1 or 2 words, and then you want to say something briefly, and then you contribute on the motion also, because I can see your name in here.
Yes, thank you again, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity, and also getting an opportunity to recognize my relatives here who are visiting from America to see how Parliament actually operates. So thank you for that opportunity, and also for this opportunity to contribute to this motion on the ratification of the Bamako Convention on the ban of the importation into Africa and the control of the transboundary movement and management of hazardous waste within Africa. Mr. Speaker, this motion is very timely. Africa has been considered as a place where all waste, either auction or inland, are dumped. We are going through a huge and a big problem in terms of climate change. And like a member mentioned a few minutes ago, that we have truly suffered as a nation in the last few months because of this issue of the climate change. And one of the issues, Mr. Speaker, that has contributed to a problem that we have is the dumping. Most of the transnational companies, they've chosen Africa as a place where you can dump anything and everything, just because we don't have systems that checks these hazardous waste that are brought in. We've mentioned computers, we've mentioned old phones, and many, many other things that end up in Africa and nobody checks on them. It is high time. We talked about the rate of cancer that has truly gone up in the last few years, and we ask ourselves, why a very big, sharp increase in cancer? It's because of waste like this that nobody talks about it, nobody controls it, and as such, this ratification of this Bamako Convention between the African countries is going to really, really help. As of now, we have 29 to 30 countries that are ratifying to accept to say no to hazardous waste in our country. So I stand here, Mr. Speaker, to support the committee for bringing this particular motion to allow us as a country to ratify it, accept it, so that for the future of our generations and our children, Kenya will be a safe place. Our oceans and beaches will be very safe. Looking back, Mombasa and most of the beaches used to be beautiful some years back, but going back now there, it is so sad to see most of the places have been polluted. It has been a lot of dumping, has been made to be a dumping site instead of beautiful beaches. So I stand here, Mr. Speaker, to support this motion of ratification of the Bamako Convention on the ban of hazardous products in Africa. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The MP for Kibwezi West is Honorable Metusi here. The Honorable Member for Marakwet West. Is it East? Marakwet North? Order, Honorable Members. Marakwet West, yes.
Marakwet West, yes. Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to be on record as having supported this very good motion. Mr. Speaker, I rise to support this motion on the ban of the importation of hazardous waste to Africa, and in particular, because we are ratifying it here, Mr. Speaker, in respect to Kenya. Mr. Speaker, this motion comes in at a very important time when Kenya is becoming a global champion in matters to do with environmental conservation. Mr. Speaker, in this country, we have an extremely progressive constitution. Mr. Speaker, Article 2.6 of our constitution provides clearly that any treaty or convention that has been ratified becomes part of the law of this country. So, Mr. Speaker, the effect of ratifying this convention means that Kenya, because it's a signatory, becomes part of the global community in matters to do with environmental conservation. Mr. Speaker, we have no reason for not ratifying this convention because, Mr. Speaker, we would not benefit as a country from other international benefits that other countries that have ratified benefit from. So, Mr. Speaker, we also need to know that Africa is facing a lot of challenges in terms of exposure of chemicals because of global trade. And, Your Honor, Mr. Speaker, that challenge must be curbed through process of ratifying such treaties. But, Mr. Speaker, even in matters of procedure, I want to agree with the MP for Funyula, Mr. Speaker, that it is unfortunate that it is the first time that as a House we are encountering these international instruments. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the procedure of ratification, one, it is to do with negotiation of this international instrument. Number two is the signing of this treaty. Number three is the ratification. So, Mr. Speaker, this ratification comes in at the tail end, at the very end. So, Mr. Speaker, we must also as a House be on record so that when this document is being negotiated, the relevant committee of this House should be on the negotiation table. This document should be brought in the House before the final ratification so that the members of this House, Mr. Speaker, when we are here on behalf of so many elected people. We represent a lot of people in this country.
Do you wish to be informed by Honorable KJ?
Yes, Your Honor, I know he's a learned man, he can give me the information.
Proceed, Honorable KJ.
Mr. Speaker, mine is a very kind nudging, and I did not intend to even interrupt the flow with which the Member of Parliament was flowing with, because he was flowing very well. And he rightly said that there is a cohort of Members of Parliament who are interacting for the first time with international instruments. And that is very correct, Mr. Speaker. In fact, it is a matter that I had raised in the previous parliament on how parliament can be onboarded earlier in the conversation, not to be coming at the tail end when the ratification is happening. The truth of the matter is the procedure has been correct. This convention finds itself on the floor of this house in a very correct manner. It is only to add a voice to what the member is saying, that yes, there does exist a legislative gap, and legislative gaps are only cured in this house. So maybe it is even a legislative opportunity for the honorable member to take up, so that we can review how we ratify international treaties and acts before they get to the house. So, Madam Speaker, I wanted to note that when Kenya was ratifying an agreement between itself and the UK bilaterally in the last parliament, I did rise in my place and flag the same exact issue that the member has flagged, and he is rightly in his place to take it up as a legislative proposal. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you,
Honorable
Honorable
Member for Marakwet, I hope you are duly informed.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I'm duly informed, and I will take up the matter so that we initiate an amendment to that effect. Madam Speaker, what I was saying is, during the negotiation stage, it is very important that the members of parliament in this house, the National Assembly in its totality, be part of the negotiating table, so that when the document is brought to the house, the members of this house will have full knowledge of this particular convention or treaty, so that when we are at the process of ratifying, then the members will have full knowledge of the same. Nonetheless, Madam Speaker, I stand to be on record as fully supporting the ratification of the Bamako Convention on the ban and importation of hazardous waste to Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Naomi Wako.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me to add my voice to this very important motion on ratification of the Bamako Convention on the ban of the importation into Africa and the control of the transboundary movement and management of hazardous waste within Africa. Madam Speaker, this motion has come at the right time when, as a country, we are encountering lots of challenges as a result of this. And if you visit different counties in our country, many are the times you hear of sicknesses that people do not know how they have gotten, and especially cancer that is taking the lives of many Kenyans. And sometimes, even when you go to rural areas like where I come from, of late, many people die of cancer and other diseases that they may not even be able to get any medication on. And all that happens as a result of this motion that we are talking about today. Madam Speaker, it is high time, because God has given us this opportunity, it is high time for Kenyans, and especially for members of parliament, to stand up and say enough is enough, just as we are debating today. Because the Bamako Convention was first negotiated by 12 nations of the Organization of the African Unity, and it has come into effect since 1998. And even if it has been effective, many are the times we realize that waste management is not taken care of, and especially in Kenya, whereby even in small towns, even our own local waste management is not done in a good way. We have polluted our environment. We have destroyed the resources that God has given us. And if we want to overcome this, the only thing that we need to do is to take care of our environment, to stop the current pollution, and see how best we can take care of our land so that the land can also take care of us. Our environment can also take care of us. I like the idea of us planting billions and billions of trees so that we can overcome some of the challenges. But unless we put our efforts together, unless we all develop the passion to do so, then we may not be able to realize. Madam Speaker, we know very well that as a country, we have enough policies in place. We have enough rules and regulations in place. We have all the things that we need, but unfortunately, implementation is not there. We have policies, and it is unfortunate that when it comes to implementation, we are not giving it any attention. Others come to our country, they learn from us, but they go and implement and they improve their environment because of the passion they have, because of being committed to what they want to do. And our country has suffered because we have not given any attention to take care of our environment. Madam Speaker, many other times we invest a lot in our country so that we take care of in our dam site, but it is unfortunate that to date, many people suffer because of the diseases that get into our environment as a result of that. With those few remarks, I can only say that if we want to revive our economy, if we want to revive our social life, if we want to revive our health sector and improve, we can only invest in our environment. And I support the convention. Thank you, and the motion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member for Marsabit. The Honorable Julius Meli, Member for Tinderet constituency. Chairman.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I rise to support the motion tabled by the Chair, Committee of Environment and Forestry. Honorable Speaker, I just want to say that the Bamako Convention, or ratification of the Bamako Convention, is actually supported by the laws of the land. Our Constitution clearly supports that international laws that are ratified that actually become part of our Kenyan laws. And Honorable Speaker, when you look at the environment, it is all that actually supports life. A poor environment, Honorable Speaker, actually contributes to loss of life, both for human, plants, and animals. Honorable Speaker, if you look at hazardous waste, and this is a problem that is facing us today, it is quite expensive as a country if we don't control the disposal of hazardous waste. And, Honorable Speaker, you realize that countries across the world, and more specifically the advanced nations, actually at times we manufacture items that actually has a lot of effect on our lives, if not well disposed. A few minutes ago, I heard the honorable members talking about items such as phones, computers, chemicals, or dispose of chemical cans, and many others, polythene bags and many others. If you look at all that, Madam Speaker, if these particular equipments or devices are not disposed well, it is going to be a cause of a number of illnesses, a number of diseases that is affecting us. And Honorable Speaker, you'll realize that as the medics will rightly put it to us, many of the diseases that we have in the society today are as a result of poor disposal of hazardous wastes. And this has affected our economy. Right now, or in this country, you'll have many families who use most of their resources to treat the sick. You'll use a lot of resources to try to heal the land, which could actually, at times it cannot produce enough food. That's why you'll realize that we go even to look for lime, we look for many other things to cure what could have actually been saved. So, Honorable Speaker, I want to say that even the Environment Management and Coordination Act of 1999, Honorable Speaker, speaks very clearly on what the government or the state has to do to protect the environment. And in doing so, it will assist this country to cap the transboundary or transborder transportation of waste. Even the lorries that move across the countries to our neighboring nations, when they come back, they will even bring containers that even some of our drivers, some of the people who carry them, aren't not aware of it. In some instances, some of the containers or some of the hazardous waste that brought into the country, some of the people who bring them are not aware. And in fact, if this particular ratification is brought into force, it will actually stop the movement of such dangerous materials. Too, Honorable Speaker, every year, thousands of schools, institutions, government agencies dispose of computers. The manner in which these computers and devices are being disposed of is not actually very clear. And you'll realize that these are the same kind of items, these are the same kind of devices that will injure our environment in one way or another. Some of them tend even to dispose them into water bodies, thinking that they will actually maybe dissolve into those bodies. But in the end, we are going to suffer as a nation. So the fact that the Bamako Convention is trying to stop this transboundary movement, and even nations that are trying to propagate this, it will stop them and therefore enable our environment to be safe, and it will therefore be safe for men, animals, and even the plants of the earth. I support. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Jackson Kosgei, nominated member. Bishop.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this opportunity. From the onset, I support this motion on hazardous waste, and it was given in and signed by this country through a convention. As we all know, properties that are no longer useful to any society and created either through industrial, as an industrial product or whatever it is, that becomes so dangerous and capable of harming human beings and the environment, is an hazard that requires an attention in what they call the chain of manufacturing, so that in our trades and importation of products that are used by the citizens of this country, responsible ministries and authorities must make sure that as we import these particular properties, we will take care of disposability of the same at the end, when we no longer have use to the same. It comes to us through industrial manufacturing, and even as we lead ourselves in Africa and in our country to develop, to manufacture, we must pay attention to that chain, that we manufacture a product, we mix some properties, but at the end of the day, we will no longer use it. Madam Speaker, we should pay attention to this, and so much that we are prepared for the disposability of the same. Thirdly, we in Africa must now make sure that we put to action, now that we ratify in this country and several of our countries are ratified in Africa, we must be proactive in protecting our people and protecting our environment, and take responsibility and make sure we live in a safe environment. Also, Madam Speaker, we should hold companies that are importing these products with the possibility of being hazardous to our society. Even those who are importing more automobiles, electronics, they are working in the telephone communication in this country. They should tell us What is there? As you license them, as we monitor them, we need to know how and what is the preparation they have in the disposal processes. With that, Madam Speaker, I support this motion.
Thank you very much, Bishop. The Honorable James Nyikal, member for Seme. You are on the radar. The Honorable Wilberforce Oundo, member for Funyula. Honorable members, I'm just trying to focus on the, so if you have already spoken, then you're not going to speak. The Honorable Paul Biego, member for Chesumei. Already spoke. The Honorable Joseph Makilap, member for Baringo North.
Put a question. We have not spoken. Oh.
The Honorable Ekomas Mutuse, member for Kibwezi West. Honorable members, I think there could be, we may need to look at the system. The Honorable Geshimu Githiji, member for Gishogo. Kindly trace the member for Gishugu.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support this ratification of this convention, Bamako Convention, because it touches on very important issues in this country, the issues of environment. And Madam Speaker, I've just noted from the report that this convention was signed by the Kenyan government on the 17th of December 2003. And I rise to, I also commend this committee that has come, that has taken over this matter, because this matter has been lying somewhere for all those years. And the issues of environment are very, very critical in this country. We also commend our president, who has been spearheading and who is the hand of the issue of environment in Africa, because through him, this matter has been able to find its way to this parliament for approval of this ratification. Madam Speaker, one of the issues that we've been grappling with is the issues of actually donations, which have been put very well by the chairman. We've been getting so many stuff for donations in this country, but in essence, those countries are actually disposing their wastes. That needs to be taken very seriously. In fact, we should follow up through the committee to make sure that all the materials that are donated in this country, either through education or even through the Ministry of Health or whichever angle, are also taken through the KEBS verification of the standards that we require in this country. So I believe that is an area that we should be very keen. We don't just pick things from there in the guise of assisting our people, but actually those people are actually making or dumping hazardous waste in this country. Madam Speaker, I also think that our efforts through the current government, led by the president, to preserve environment should also be respected by the other countries, so that when a decision has been made, actually that should be respected by actually making sure that this convention is followed to the letter. Madam Speaker, a lot has been spoken, and actually I do not intend to belabor all that has been said, but I just thought I must rise and support, because it comes at a very critical time when this government is taking matters environment very seriously for the benefit of the Kenyans, for today and prosperity. Thank you, and I support.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Jackson Lekumo-Ntore.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. My name is Lekumo-Ntore. Yeah, I rise to support the report. And Madam Speaker, this is a very important report and beneficial to our country. I think, Madam Speaker, there are so many hazardous materials which sometimes get way to our country. And approving this or ratifying this convention, Madam Speaker, it will help us a lot. There are so many harmful materials, Madam Speaker. And in fact, in some places in this country, there are materials which has been dumped in some places which are now affecting even livestock and human beings. And they are dumped there long time ago. So, Madam Speaker, our environment is very important, and this is one way of taking care of the environment. And Madam Speaker, as a country, we have learned a lot that we really need to work and improve what we have, because there are so many things already which has come to us. And Madam Speaker, if we don't take care, we may be affected so much when it comes to these harmful materials which are affecting our people. If you look at even the industries, Madam Speaker, they are releasing so many bad things to the environment. And as long as we want to look at this convention, even internally, it is very important to take care of our environment. And Madam Speaker, if this one is taken care of, I think we'll have a lot of good land and very spacious to the people. And I think even of late, Madam Speaker, Kenyans are talking a lot about even the GMOs. It therefore means we really need to protect our environment and the people in our country. And anything which brings threats to environment, we have to work and protect the environment, Madam Speaker. So I think it is a very important convention, timely to us, and I think we really need to ratify for the sake of our country. So, Madam Speaker, thank you for the chance. I support.
Thank you. The Honorable Charles Kamuren. That means that because your name is also appearing on the screen. The Honorable Catherine Omanyo, is it your intention to speak on this motion? Okay, proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I really support the motion because some of the nations abroad have treated Africa as a dumping site. They had eclipsed us into thinking that they really care. But when they realize that some of these objects or things that they came up with are hazardous and can cause problems, and they don't want to dump those things in their nation, they bring them to Africa. So it's a high time we took charge of ourselves, took charge of our environment, took charge and made sure that for anybody abroad who wants to maybe bring anything here or import anything within our boundaries, the things are not hazardous and are not radioactively, bad. So I also I'm backing it by saying that we should not be taken as a dumping site. Thank you.
Very much. The Honorable Mwafrika.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to top up the support of the Bamako Treaty. Madam Speaker, this treaty seeks to stop the importation of hazardous and radioactive waste in Africa. Madam Speaker, we need also to take initiative as African countries on how to implement this treaty by way of controlling and minimizing the transboundary crossing of these developed countries which come to Africa to dump their waste. And Mr. Speaker, I believe the developed countries know that once they dump these wastes in Africa, as a result of that, all the diseases which may be caused by this waste, they know that we shall go to their countries to seek for treatment. So, Madam Speaker, this treaty, it is very good if we can come up with some ways of how to implement it, and also the consequences of those countries which probably will not observe the conditions of this treaty, Madam Speaker. I support Madam Speaker, and I make a call to all African countries to rise to the occasion and make sure that this treaty is implemented to the letter, Madam Speaker. I support.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Benziba. Try to trace the Honorable Benziba on my left.
I'm here.
Please move to the microphone that is working.
Asante sana Madam Speaker kwa kunipa nafasi fursa hii na mimi niweze kupenyeza sauti yangu. Nimesimama kuunga ripoti hii. Madam Speaker, taifa bora ni lile linalolinda mazingira yake. Mazingira ni ndio chanzo cha matatizo mengi. Na mataifa mengi yanarudi nyuma wakati mazingira yanakuwa ni mabaya, mazingira yanapokuwa mabaya, maradhi yanagubika katika taifa hilo, badala ya kwenda mbele inarudi nyuma. Madam Speaker, si vyema watu katika mataifa mengine ambayo ni ya kitajiri watumie nafasi ya kuja kutupa takataka zao sehemu zetu, ama mabaki ya yale wanayaona kwamba hayawafai, wanasema sasa wanakuja kama msaada na kumbe anakuja kuwa na madhara. Madam Speaker, bahari yetu imechafuliwa sana kwa na hao mataifa ambao wanajiita ni matajiri. Licha ya kuwa sisi tuna umaskini, lakini umaskini wao ndio wametusababisha umaskini kwa njia kama hii ya kutuletea machafu hapa ambazo ni sumu, zinarudi sisi tunaturudisha nyuma, alafu wanarudi wao kutuambia sisi wanakuja kutupa msaada. Madam Speaker, maradhi ya kansa ama ya saratani hapa Afrika hayakuwa hivyo zamani, lakini sasa yamezidi paka kwa watu, hata paka mtoto mdogo anazaliwa anakuwa anamkia na hiyo maradhi kwa sababu ya yale machafu wanaotubwagia sisi. Kule kwao wanajifanya wanasafisha bahari zao, lakini kwetu ndo wanatumia dumping yetu kwa neno la kusema ni msaada. Madam Speaker, taifa ambalo la kuheshimika ni lile ambalo linahakikisha kwamba watu wake wanaishi salama. Na kuishi salama ni kutokubali kabisa kuja kumwagiwa vitu tusivyovijua. Wanatuletea vifaa kama wanavyosema, wanasema vinakuja kwa msaada. Baada ya wiki mbili vifaa vile vimeharibika na tayari vimeshatoa miale fulani kwa wale watoto kama ni za shule. Kwa hivyo ni vyema sisi twende na hali zetu wenyewe. Tusijaribu kuomba misaada ambayo sisi itakuja kutudhuru. Kwa hivyo Madam Speaker, pia mimi nimesimama hapa kuunga mkono hata sisi katika taifa letu. Ikiwa ni takataka ambayo iko katika sehemu ya mji mwingine isihamishwe kupelekwa mji mwingine. Pale ikae, na kama ina madhara ikabiliwe pale, isiweze kuambukiza sehemu nyingine. Madam Speaker, nimesimama kuunga mkono ripoti hii na nasema kwamba tusikubali licha umaskini wetu tulioko nao. Mungu ndo atakuwa ametupa sisi na ana njia kutuhifadhi nao. Kwa hivyo tusikubali uchafu utoke mataifa ya Ulaya ama mataifa ya kitajiri kutuletea sisi. Kwa haya nasema asante na napongeza kamiti iliyounda hii report. Asante.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa Benzimba. The Honorable Ngongoyo, member for Kajiado North.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me this chance. I rise also as a member of this committee, Madam Speaker, to support the motion on the floor. As I thank the chair and the membership of the committee. We went through this particular convention, Madam Speaker, and its ratification is progress for this country, for people who believe in environment. And going forward, Madam Speaker, we will have put a buffer on anyone or any country that would want to deposit hazardous materials to this country. Madam Speaker, as an environmental impact assessment analyst qualified by NEMA, one who practices, Madam Speaker, this is one of the most progressive laws to adopt. And ratification means we are saying we are part of the global world that is saying no to such materials. Madam Speaker, some years ago, hospitals were built using asbestos. Most of the environmentalists said no. But because there was no particular law that hindered hospitals to be built using asbestos, one of the prime jobs nowadays we are doing is to remove asbestos from all institutions and mostly hospitals that were built at that particular time. The dangers they have caused, Madam Speaker, we would not want to mention because some of them have ended up making people lose their lives. What we are doing now, we are creating a law that will help our people, that will help us from other countries or other people to even importing to this country, they will be hindered by this particular law. I want to thank this committee for taking its time to go through this. Madam Speaker, we had very many days of arguments until we came out to an agreement on how it should go going forward. And I want to tell the executive through the CS SOIPAN that they now have the tool to work and they have an opportunity to make sure that this country is well protected going forward. And actually going forward, we have way. And even other conventions, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, that are before us, they will be of importance for us to ratify so that we are able to bar people who import hazardous materials or even depositing from other countries. With those very many remarks, Madam Speaker, I support the motion and ask this House to adopt this particular ratification so that we are part of the people who are saying no to hazardous materials to this country. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Gonzi Rai will be the last on this.
Asante sana Bi Speaker kwa kunipa nafasi ili na mimi nipate kuungana na wenzangu kuhusiana na ripoti ambayo iko mbele ya nyumba hii. Mheshimiwa Speaker, ni kitu cha kuhuzunisha sana kwamba development partners wetu ambao tunawaita kwamba ni wenzetu kimaendeleo, mara nyingi wanachukua nafasi hii kutumiza sisi kwa sababu ya umaskini wetu. Bwana Spika, nafikiri kutokana na ripoti hii na vile mambo yalivyochaguliwa na kupangwa, kuna umuhimu kwamba pia bunge hili likapate kutoka na sheria muafaka ambapo penginepo itakapogunduliwa kwamba watu ambao mara nyingi wanatumia nchi hii kutupa vifaa ambavyo vinaweza kuleta madhara, hatua ya kisheria ikapate kufanya kazi ili likapate kuwa funzo kwa mataifa mengine. Bi Speaker, mara kwa mara tumekuwa tukiona mambo ambayo wakati mwingine hayapendezi, kwa sababu licha kwamba penginepo tunatumiwa takataka, kuna wakati ulifika tukaja tukaambiwa kwamba sukari inayoletwa katika nchi hii ina madhara, lakini kwa sababu ya tamaa za kutaka kujitajirisha mapema, watu wako tayari kwamba uhai wa maisha si muhimu, bali muhimu ni ule tajiri ambao wanautafuta. Bi Speaker, mambo haya yamekuwa yakiendelea na vitengo vinavyohusishwa viko, lakini hatua haichukuliwi. Unakuta mambo yale yanapotea kwa upepo. Sisi hatuna roho mbadala kwamba penginepo baada ya tunapopata shida kama zile tunaweza tukaenda tukaomba roho nyingine ili kuja kuwapatia watu wetu. Tunapopewa maradhi tunahangaika na kujua kwamba ni kitu gani kitakachoweza kutuokoa. Kwa hivyo kamati hii imefanya kazi ya kutosha, na ni letu kuwapa pongezi kwamba kazi walioifanya ikapate kuonekana na mwangaza huko mbele, kwa sababu likiwa ni funzo kwamba bunge hii inapitisha hoja hii, basi inatakikana kwamba baada ya hivi sheria mwafaka ikafuate ili tukapate kuhakikisha kwamba tunafunga milango yote ambayo inaweza kutumiwa na wale ambao wanaona kwamba Kenya ni mahali ambapo unaweza kufanya lolote lile kimajaribio. Sisi si raia ambao penginepo hatuna umuhimu kwa Mwenyezi Mungu, na hata huu maskini ambao penginepo tuko nao sio kwamba tulitaka tuwe hivi, lakini watu wasichukulie huu kwa unyonge na kuona kwamba wanaweza kutufanyia mambo vile wanavyotaka. Bi Speaker, naipongeza kamati na nalipongeza jumba hili kwa sababu ya kuiunga mkono hoja hii ili kuhakikisha kwamba tunatafuta usalama wa wananchi wetu. Mazingira yanapoharibika, nataraji kwamba ni miaka kama 2-3 iliyopita tulikuja kuwa na maradhi ya corona hapa, ambayo ni maradhi tukiaulizia zaidi tunapata kwamba yalitokana na baadhi ya watu fulani kusema kwamba wacha tueneze ugonjwa huu kwa sababu tunataka kufanya majaribio madawa yetu. Mataifa yamewahi kuwa na wakati wa kufanya majaribio ya silaha zao za hatari katika bahari Hindi. Kule kuna samaki na samaki wale tunawatumia, mwisho tunapatikana na matatizo ya maradhi. Na Bwana Spika, haya yote ni mambo ambayo yanatumiza sisi kama wananchi. Kwa hivyo ninaomba kwamba sheria ipitishwe ya kuhakikisha kwamba tumeweka ama tumefunga njia zote za wale wahalifu wanaotumia nafasi kama hii na kutuletea vitu ambavyo vinaweza kutuletea madhara. Bi Speaker, mimi nashukuru kwa sababu ya kunipa nafasi, manake mahali ninakotoka ni mahali ambapo najua mambo kama haya. Kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa elimu, watu wengi hujiingiza mashakani. Kwa hivyo naiunga mkono na nasema kwamba Mungu akapate kutubariki kwa hayo. Asante.
Asante sana Mheshimiwa wa Kinango. Honorable members, I see one more interest by the Honorable Waithaka, member for Kiambu.
Madam Speaker, I rise to support this Bamako Convention, and I would like to thank the Committee on Environmental, Forestry and Mining, led by the very able Honorable Gikaria. Madam Speaker, I rise to support because we've heard of many cases reporting of many ships that have docked at the port of Mombasa. And the latest one that I know of was in December, 21st December 2021, the MV Precarious Voyo, that was a Danish ship that had come from India that was on the way to Tanzania. Madam Speaker, the Western countries have taken advantage of our weak laws, because the reason they come to dump in Africa is because they have very strong institutions that are able to check on hazardous waste, and because they know we do not have enough resources to support our investigative agencies, they then come and take advantage and come and dump the hazardous waste here in Kenya and in Africa. So this motion is very timely. Madam Speaker, when hazardous or nuclear waste is dumped in our countries, for example in Mombasa, we get many cases of fish, people who eat fish, seafood, get very diseases that are not able to be explained, like cancer. And this becomes very expensive for the country, and we lose many lives. In my constituency of Kiambu, we also have fertilizer that has been banned in the Western countries. But it's able to make its way into Kiambu and into our country. And in my constituency of Kiambu, we have a very high rate of cancer. And when we take a map of Kenya, we find that in the agricultural areas, like in Kiambu, the cases of cancer are very high. And this is caused by this dumping of cheap material, fertilizer that has been contaminated, which, Madam Speaker, has been banned in the Western countries, but it's able to get here in Kenya. So, Madam Speaker, I would ask that our country, we fund our investigative agencies, and we have laws in place, and we also have checks and balances to make sure that goods or materials that are banned in the Western world are not allowed in our country. Because when they allow them, we have a very, very big problem, because our health deteriorates and it becomes very expensive for our country. So, Madam Speaker, I would like to support this motion, and I would like to commend the Department of Environment for bringing up this motion at this particular time. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member Kiambu. Honorable members, I had said that that would be the last one. However, I have a request by the Honorable Kawanjiko, member for Kiamba, and that will be the last, and I'll call upon the mover to reply.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for extending your hand and also extending your time to me, so that at least I can be able to contribute towards this great motion. And I'm rising to support the Committee on Environment led by the able chair, Mr. Gekaria. Madam Speaker, this motion